Greetings again. This is Athena Jezik. Well, today I've got Diana again. She's such a good model, but she has a deviated septum and she's making little noises at night that she doesn't like. So I will be showing what we're going to do with that, and I have a lot to explain about that because I don't really know the relationship that well of the septum and the vomer. We weren't really taught to work with the deviated septum, but I'm going to just allow you to see how my mental process is when I come upon a person that has a situation and they're trusting me to help them, but I'm not really knowing exactly what to do. I need to go in and just feel the body and see what's changing and see what's moving, and then trust that whatever is happening with the intention behind it, that there will be some kind of change made. And she'll be helping me to know if it's a good feeling or if it hurts and all of that. So we'll be working very closely together, and I think it's going to be a very good video for you to get some idea of all the things you can do with your hands if you just take the time to listen to the body and to allow it to show you and develop that intuitive sense so that you are allowing something else to happen in your mind. Thinking is getting out of the way. So with that, here we go. So I'm putting this glove on because I'm going to start by just balancing the hard palate, because we need to start somewhere. And so starting kind of on the outside and moving self in is what makes sense to me. But I will start there and see where the body is going to take me, see where this different hard palate and vomer and all that is going to take me. There's probably something to do with the sphenoid bone as well that's involved in this whole process. So to do that, I'm going to start with balancing. So I'm going to have the fingers on the biting surfaces of the teeth, and I'm just going to check the balance for this, because the sphenoid bone will be rocking forward as the cruciate suture is going to be widening. So it's like the sphenoid bone's going forward and then the cruciate suture is widening, and then it'll be going back. Now if that's balanced, then we'll know that things are good, but if it's not, then it'll kind of go crooked. So we'll just start with that. And I'm going to wait a second for the, there it goes, it's okay. And there is a little bit of, yeah. Yeah, it does feel like there's a little bit of restriction on the, it's her left side. And what I'm feeling here is that the teeth on the left side, the hard palate on the left side is not expanding quite as much as the one on the right. So now I'm going to take that into a little torsion, because I want to make sure the sphenobasilar junction is on the fulcrum, that is balanced first. The fulcrum of the body, and that's called the sphenobasilar junction. And then I'm going to take it the other way. And now that was like the direction of ease, but now this is the direction of barrier going the other way. I don't always know why it does that, and I'm not going to try to figure it out, because it's just what her body's doing. And there's also some movement, some correction going on in the sphenoid bone, the wings of the sphenoid bone, which means that the entire sphenoid bone is making some changes down to there. Okay, and I'm stabilizing the sphenoid bone here, and now I'm going to shear it just a little bit. So I just nudge a little bit and shear, and her sphenoid bone is actually pretty much off balance. It's fighting to get back onto balance because it doesn't want to be in the position it's in. There's a lot of activity in the wings of the sphenoid right now. And I'm going to bring it to the other side. And now I'm centering it. I'm going to get the rhythm back and see if that opened up anything. That did balance that one side. It's not as tight. It doesn't feel as tight on the left now. It's expanding closer to the right side, but there's still a little bit of restriction. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to go straight up to the vomer. Wait a second, let me think about this a minute. I'm just going to check the palatine as well, because the sphenoid bone, the leg of the sphenoid bone comes down. So I'm going to wait on the vomer, and I'm going to go just check the palatine, which is right behind. It's three little bones that come together at the back of the last tooth, and you can kind of feel like it does feel like there's three little bones coming together. And I'm just going to do a little bit of holding there and let it do what it has to do. And there is some correction there, so that's all relating. And now I'm going to, usually I go to the other side, but because of this isn't normal mouth work, it's specialty mouth work, I'm just going to hold it here because I'm just checking it. Right about there. Feels different when I'm crossing over. And that side is really active. Okay. All right. So that was good. That had some correction. And now I'm going to go to the vomer. Now the vomer is right along the cruciate suture. The cruciate suture is that line in the middle of the mouth, the hard palate, and I'm going back to the soft palate. That's where the vomer is the longest, is back by the hard palate. And by everything, it seems that the septum is very related to the vomer. But again, we weren't trained in this. They kind of turn you loose after so much and hope that you can figure it out. Now this is very interesting because it feels like between the hard and soft palate is expanding, like they were compressed and like they're opening up. Even the hard palate feels a little bit more like it's opening. A little bit more, and there is some moving around, some wiggling. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to shear this vomer over to the left. It's just a little teeny, and that really brought some movement to the sphenoid bone. The frontal bone's active too. And then the other side, the right side. And there's movement in the left wing of the sphenoid there too. And then back to the middle. And then I'm going to torque it, take it into a torsion, just holding my finger very lightly and torquing it this way, and then torquing it over to the left. Okay. So now, there we go. So that was pretty good. I just want to go back there, whoops, one more, and get the rhythm to make sure the rhythm of that's balanced as well. Okay, now I'm going to move up into the hard palate, and I'm going to be holding on to the more cartilage part of the nose right now, where the bone and the cartilage kind of comes together. I'm just going to check that, and like I say, I'm just checking things, and I'm more in the middle of the hard palate here in the mouth, and I'm just going to very lightly connect those areas and feel, and then let it, there's a lot of movement now, a lot of movement in the on the vomer, and it's relating up into this more bony position, bony part of the nose. And just let it kind of dance around there. Now it feels like the bone in the nose, the more nasal area of the hard bone, is wanting to torque. It's wanting to torque over to the right. going to go to those 3 nasal bones here too and see if that needs some decompression. At the same time of just keeping my finger on the center of that vomer via the hard palate. Oh, there was a release in there. It felt like something let go in the on top of the vomer. Okay. Okay. You can usually tell and there is a little deviation. I'm going to go down to the fleshy part here. And just see if that has any kind of relation. Yeah, you can rest your jaw. And I can feel lots of movement on the cartilage. I'm just letting it move where it wants to move. Just be really patient with it, and I just felt like the vomer dropped a little bit. There's a lot of therapeutic pulsing on the vomer, and now there's some more movement into this soft part of the nose. On this skull, you're going to see that the vomer that I talked about, that's the bone. It's this orange kind of bone that's between the nose here. It's thicker in the back, and it narrows down in the front. You can also see it, but it's way back there because it's narrow. And it comes out along right along the crucis suture, which is the line right down the middle of the skull. You can see it on here, the same thing. It's the pink bone on this one. And so this is relating into, you see how the vomer is touching the sphenoid bone, which is this red bone here. And then the blue bone is the occiput, and that is right where they meet. That's the sphenobasilar junction. That's the fulcrum of the body. So here's the vomer right real close to that. So if the vomer, in my mind, the way I see it, if the vomer is off, it's going to be off along the crucis suture, and then it's going to be off where then the septum is going to be pulled in a funny direction. Okay, so I'm keep checking the nostril. It's not super deviated, but I do see that. Okay, now because the glove was in her mouth, I'm going to change gloves. Okay, now I'm going to take my little finger. I'm going to hold the nasal bones here. And this is just what I'm just checking again. So I'm going to go inside of the nose. I'm going to start on this side over here. And I'm just going to go up the nose a little ways and go into the side part of the nose, where the septum, and just, my fingers are more or less just resting there, and I'm pulling upward on the nasal bones. There's a lot of little rumbling under my little finger that's in her nose. How does that feel?
Good.
Do you feel movement in there?
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, it's relaxing her down too, because she's getting into she's allowing the body, and her consciousness is connected into that. Okay, it feels like there's a lot of movement here. Okay. And then I'm going to take, let's see, this little finger, and we're going to go inside again. And I'm just on the inside, I'm touching the inside of the nose, in the middle, the midline, and I'm going to pull the nasal bones up, and I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of, maybe it's about 1 gram. 5 grams is the weight of a nickel, so you can figure that. And this side is doing some interesting things. It kind of feels like it's wanting to kind of roll. The movements are so small, it's hard for me to translate it, but there's a lot of pulsing. There's very small little like swimming, and it feels like it's moving over to the right, which that was the side of the nostril that appeared to be a little bit smaller, although she doesn't have a super deviation in the way that the nostrils looked fairly even. Oh, this is really starting to take an interesting turn. So I'm just following what she's moving so it won't go back to the old position. And it's really pretty amazing what's under there. I'm giving a little bit of traction, kind of in a downward position, direction, with the hand that's on the septum. Okay, this is quite a bit of movement, actually. It's not letting me go yet. It's holding me in there, because it will definitely let go and it doesn't want me there anymore, but it's holding. And so I'm just going to continue to hold. It's times like this when you really have to have a lot of patience, and you have to be able to hold yourself really pretty still for however long it takes. And oh, there's a lot of movement in the nasal bones, a lot of correction in the nasal bones. Okay, it's starting to let me go. No, not yet, I guess. I thought it was, but it lightened me up a little bit. Now it's taking a really big twist. It kind of feels like my fingers are folding in half. I mean, between them, like she's folding. And now it's stopped, and now it's circling, and now it's coming back. There must have been a little bit of a tangling of fascia in there. I don't really know, but it feels like that. And No, she's gradually like letting me come out, but she's doing it very slowly because it's correcting as my finger feels like it's coming a little bit farther out of the nose. Yeah, there we go. How does that feel?
Wow. That was really crazy. You were narrating everything I was feeling.
Really?
Yeah.
No. How's the breathing?
Good.
Okay. So, yeah.
A whole lot of tension all around my head tied into that. And then just was just letting it go and letting it go. And
the cranium feels a little different as well? It's amazing. And you know, that's really in there with close to the hypothalamus, and you know, I mean, it's getting into that space. There's membranes around it, of course, but yeah, maybe we opened your pineal gland, who knows?
Something. It feels really just nice and open. And
oh, good.
All across, deep inside my brow.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, very good at paying attention to that. Now, because I use this little finger in your nose, I'm going to use these two fingers, and I'm just going to check the balance. I know I couldn't get my fingers all the way to the end of the glove, so. And I'm just what I'm doing here is I'm just checking the balance to make sure that the sphenobasilar junction is balanced and that oh yeah, I see we're a little bit off rhythm now. So how I get it back on the rhythm is I'm going to drag the sphenoid bone there we go. And then I just wait for it to go in the way it's supposed to go, because now it's doing the right thing. I'll show you out of her mouth. Yeah, this is balanced now. And then now as I come out this time, I'm going to like magnetically connect to her teeth and just drag out on the teeth, which is going to open up the palatine a little bit more. And it's just another way of spacing some of those little bones. There, you can see there's 3 little nasal bones here that go in. Very tiny one back there by the eyes. But then you can see underneath here the sphenoid bone coming in kind of indirectly, because this is where it gets real tricky, because inside of the orbit, part of the sphenoid bone is there. So these little bones in here are going to relate to one another, even though it's not directly. So the palatine is where I went there, and that is right here behind the teeth with the soft palate, the hard palate. And then, of course, the vomer is going to be affected by the hard palate. And this is the palatine, where you can see the legs of the sphenoid bone coming down. This is the sphenoid bone. You can see the legs of the sphenoid bone coming down. It's actually more like that. But it's coming down into this area. So the sphenoid bone has to be balanced on here in order to make that work. Now on the ear pull part that she had mentioned that she could feel some stretching going on, it has to do with this particular membrane, the fox cerebri, fox cerebelli, and tentorium. And the ears are coming out right here. So the stretching that she was feeling is as I was pulling the ears, this membrane here was able to come out with the temporal bone. The temporal bone is just, as it pulls very gently out, you're getting a little bit of a stretch on the tentorium as well, because it's attached along there. So that just gives you some idea. And then the importance of the sphenoid bone in the occiput is that this needs to be balanced. And that's the bone that I look for all the time for balance, because if that's off in any way, the entire structure will be taking its position in an abnormal alignment. Okay, now what I felt was how she was off balance is, it's supposed to be opening as it's going forward and closing. she was doing it opening and then closing, so it was going like that. So I just put a drag on it while that one opened, and then I let it go, so then it just came back onto the right balance. That happens a lot, even in the bones of the head when you're doing cranial work. But that's also something that you'll pick up as you practice more and more, because that's a very difficult thing. But try to pay attention, if you're doing cranial work, to the fact that the bones need to move with each other in a certain direction. And if it's not, then put a drag and allow it to get to the proper opening and closing, flexion and extension. So you feel better? Different?
I do, yeah, very much so.
I'm just going to do a little bit of pulling, what's called an ear pull, just to give some expansion into that, the membranes up there, the tentorium and the falx cerebri and cerebelli, because all of that is so related, and that should feel pretty good. Okay, and well, we might do a little more. We'll see how it goes, but it's, nobody has perfect nostrils, but they seem to be, it's hard to tell, but it does seem to be different. Yeah. Okay, so tell us what that was like.
It was really interesting, and like I said, as you were describing it, I was like, oh, okay, that's what I'm feeling, and especially the holding on to you, like I felt it not wanting to let you go. And yeah, just everything opening and expanding.
And now you feel like, is the breath good? Does it feel like you can pull it in with, of course,
I'm a little nasally from lying on my back, but
yeah. No, it sounds to me like it's real clear, like it's real, just the passageway is pretty open. It's very open.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes for the next few days, how you feel. It's going to probably be that 48-hour process. So just pay attention. And how's your head? You had some flicky feelings in your head? Is that okay now? Yeah, sparkly.
No, that was good. Like it just was this awakening kind of a sensation coming up through my brow and then up to the crown of my head.
Oh, that's yeah. That's interesting. So, this is just something about the work, is each person is a little bit different, but this was a really good demonstration for seeing that, how you can approach most anything you want to with just paying attention to what the body is. And as you heard from Diana, everything I was explaining, she was feeling. So that's like validation that there is something going on, even if it's at a very subtle level. And she's sensitive enough to be able to feel the subtleties that are happening in the body. So with that, I want to say I hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoyed it. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for all you do, and I appreciate you all very, very much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. And I think there's a little bell up there that you can hit that you'll get a notification every time we post. So if you want to, you can hit that too. But thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.